Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Creative CEO. I'm so excited to be here. I had an unintentional 2-week break. The first week was because my daughter had chickenpox and my brain just couldn't compute doing anything other than just being with her. It was a hell of a week. Any parent will understand exactly what I'm talking about. But yeah, my daughter had the chickenpox, and then I had every intention of doing a podcast last week, but I was prepping for my first big event of the year, which is what I'm going to talk about today. So I went to the National Equine Show this weekend. It was held at the NEC in Birmingham. And I went to this show last year, and it's an event where lots of different equestrian and country brands come together in one big hall, and there's trade stands, there's guest speakers on stages, there's people doing demos, there aren't people on horses doing demos. There are like some sort of small ponies, but it's not a competition where there's lots of horses and riders. It's more about the trade stands and the speakers and the demos. It's such good fun, and I like to take my art into these places because these places are full of my ideal customer. These places are full of people with horses or people with farms or dogs, and they are my ideal customer because I want them to get a commission from me. It was absolutely shattering, but I've come away from it absolutely buzzing because I did something different this year, and I went completely out of my comfort zone again. And I actually did a collab with an equestrian brand called Blackfort Equestrian, and they kitted me out in clothes for the whole weekend. And I did a nosy pony drawing of their mascot horse, Marley. And as part of this collab on the Sunday, I took Marley's portrait, it was very nearly finished. I took his portrait and my easel and my pencils, and I took it onto their stand where there were shoppers just browsing for clothes, and then there was me drawing and finishing off Marley's portrait. And I don't know why, and it was just live drawing anyway. That's something that I intentionally wanted to do more of this year. And if you follow me on YouTube, I did a live drawing at a dressage competition, which was like the first time I'd really put myself out there and gone and done some live drawing. And that was fantastic. And then this was like another step up because I was live drawing at my own stand, doing a completely different drawing, which if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see it behind me. So that was like doing a drawing on my own stand, which again is getting out of my comfort zone, but I'm getting a lot more confident with it now. But sorry, I've digressed a bit. Go back to the Blackfort Equestrian collab, then taking my art from like my stand, which is my little area, and taking it into a different part of the hall where people aren't expecting to see you. If people come to my stand and they see the art and they see me drawing, that kind of makes sense. But taking myself into an area of the hall and into a different trade area where people aren't expecting to see you, that was a bit daunting. But people were just so amazing. Like, people were so complimentary, and they came and chatted to me, and they just loved what I was doing. And I think for me, I'm proud of myself that I've got to a level of confidence where I'm happy to chat to people whilst I'm drawing. I'm happy to chat about my work. I'm also happy to chat about them. Like, I've found that I'm starting to open up conversation with people that's not just about what I'm doing physically there. I can try and relate it to them. And yeah, I'm just really proud of myself for doing this. And I have now got the absolute buzz for live drawing, and I want to go do it more. So I'm fully intending, and I'm putting this out there again. I'm going to keep saying it and keep manifesting it, but I intend to be the most well-known horse equestrian artist in the UK. That is my intention. And I feel like for me to achieve this, I need to do more drawings out in the community, out and getting people to see my artwork, even if they don't actually want to see my artwork. I want to be somebody that people invite along to gala events to do some live drawing, that sort of thing. I'm telling you all this because I want you to think about what is something that scares you, or what is something that you want to do, but it feels a little bit uncomfortable and it feels a little bit scary. Because if there's something that you want to do, but you're not feeling like you're absolutely really excited for it, that is a good sign that you are about to step out of your comfort zone and do something amazing. And like me this weekend, I've done that, and I just feel absolutely wonderful. Like, it's really made me feel confident in my art. It's made me feel confident in my abilities. It's made me feel confident that my business can survive and my business, it can work, and people like what I'm doing, and I'm just going to keep doing more of it. Oh gosh, I feel very, my face actually hurts because I smiled so much at the weekend. And yesterday I was with my daughter, and then today I am home alone, and I thought I'm going to do the podcast because I really wanted to chat to you all, but I just need to spend the rest of the day just not talking because my face almost needs a chance to go back to normal. I've definitely got 10 more wrinkle lines from my laugh lines. Yeah, I suppose they're good wrinkles, really. Anyways, I wanted to talk to you today about the event, about the process, what sort of my intentions were with going, and the lessons that I've learned from this event, because I learned lessons from last year, but I've got more that I need to learn for next year. So, first of all, choosing the right event to go to and spend your money on, that's the thing that I'm figuring out at the moment. And if you decide to go to an event, and it doesn't have to be one of these sort of larger events where you are paying £1,500 plus for a stand, it could be a smaller, more local event. Like, it doesn't matter where you are. Obviously, when you're paying more money for an event, you've got to think more strategically about whether it's right for you. And I personally think that this particular event is right for me, because even though I didn't make many sales on the day, like, I made some good sales. Like, I sold an original, which I'm absolutely over the moon about, and I sold some prints, and I sold off some of my homewares, which I've now got down to one box in the garage, which is fantastic. I just need to get rid of the rest of them. So I definitely did well, but it's the after sale. So if you're like me and you do commissions and you do originals, like, the sales that you take on the day are not the full sales. Hopefully not anyway. Like, you've got to think about the after sales as well. So when you're choosing and selecting the events that you want to go to, you've got to consider what sort of people are going to be going, and do you think that they are actually going to be interested in your art? So last year, I remember my stand was I'd kitted out heavily to gear towards the homewares. And it did, I made a lot of sales on the homewares, which was fantastic. But this year I've actually taken the homewares out of my portfolio now, and I'm just focusing on originals and prints and commissions. So this year I felt like I was transitioning into just doing the art, and I had homewares reduced to clear, but maybe the messaging was a bit confusing because I had like homewares that were really reduced in price, and then I had originals and commissions and prints which were of a higher end. So I don't know whether this year my messaging was a little bit more confusing, and that's something that I'm going to consider for next year, is how can I make my stand feel more like a personal experience, so people can come in and they can chat about their horse. And I'm going to shout out one of the other trade stands. Her name is Martha Lily Photography. She actually won an award for the best stand, and I was just in awe of her stand. She made it look like somebody's home, and she said she ransacked her house to make it look like that, but it just looked beautiful. Like, she just made it look like somebody's home, and she had people staying around and talking to her for a long time about work. And I've taken inspiration from her. Like, I was trying to make my stand look like a home myself, because I created these wall panels, and I was doing it on the cheap. I was doing it DIY, and I got some plywood, which is relatively lightweight, but when we got there and we were clamping them to the top of the shell scheme stand walls, I realised that they were slipping down, and it was really freaking me out. And by lucky chance, for some reason, one of our panels was white. So we had 4 black panels and then 1 white one, which I think if I wasn't covering the walls, I would have been pretty annoyed about, because it would have looked so weird. But because I wanted white walls, that one panel actually meant we could take one of my own panels that I'd made off and use another clamp to clamp the other panels to the top of the walls. I'm sorry if this isn't making much sense as I'm saying it out loud, but it's hard to explain what the visual was. But essentially, I wanted to make it look like, almost like my studio. I used the same sort of colour, like an off-white. I put some planks of wood to make it look like I'd panelled the house. But because I felt like I did a good job, but I also cut them too short. So in the end, it just looked like a bit of a bodged job. But I don't think people really noticed. I think people could look past it because I had the art on the walls covering up some of the cracks. But I had this vision in my head to make it look like someone's home. But yeah, I've got more I can do next year. And I think I'm going to invest in some vinyl wall coverings, which will be a lot more lightweight and I could reuse again and again, because I've already thrown the panels that I made away just because I had to drill so many holes in them to keep them all together. So if you go to one of these events, it's really important to consider how you want your stand to look and how you want your stand to feel. And if you are doing homewares, for example, and a lot of your stuff is kitchenware, you could get a nice big dresser. I actually had one at the game fair. I had a big brown dresser, and you could use that to display your homewares. It's important to get really creative with your stands because there are so many different brands there. You need to find a way to stand out. And if you are a well-known brand, you almost don't need to worry too much because people will find your stand because they'll be looking for you and your products will speak for themselves. But if you're new to the events and you are still quite a small business, I think it's important to make sure that your stand really does draw people in. And what I loved about mine, even though it was a bit of a bodge job, my stand really stood out because lots of other people's stands were still black and mine was white, so it really did make them stand out. And also I had a corner which I requested, and that made a huge difference because it was nice having, my stuff being seen from two angles. I also made a bit of a mistake last year at the National Equine Show. I didn't get enough emails. I don't think I've got any emails. And then at the game fair last year, I gave away a portrait and people were signing up to emails because they obviously wanted to go into the prize draw for the portrait. And this year I didn't want to give away a free portrait because I'm already doing a portrait for somebody in an exchange of services. And I just didn't want to give away another portrait. So instead I was giving away a hamper of goodies, which weren't quite as appealing because, like I said at the top, I'm trying to move away from homewares, and yet I was giving away a box of homewares. So I think I was, again, maybe the messaging was a bit confusing, but I didn't get as many. I did get some email signups, actually. That was really good. But what I forgot to do was actually get emails for people who were interested in commissions. So that was a big mistake. So when lots of people stopped and talked to me and asked me about commissions, and I gave them all the information and I gave them a business card and told them to speak to me. But what I should really have done is gone that one step further and got their email address that I could message them myself. And I did that for about 3 people that I spoke to at the end of the Sunday. But yeah, it was a bit silly of me, and definitely something I need to work on is making sure that when people are inquiring, I am getting their contact details, because people will forget. I know that half the people that I spoke to, I reckon about 90% of the people that I spoke to will forget and they will never contact me again. And then there will be just a few people that remember. Those are all I need, really. I just need a few more commissions booked in, and then the weekend has been paid for. But yeah, that was definitely a big mistake. However, we learn, we move on, we do better next time. At the game fair in July, I'm already going to consider how I can make it more of an experience about art, and but more of a not luxury, but I definitely I don't want to take any of my homewares to the game fair if possible, because even though I've got like one box left to sell, I think the messaging is just a bit confusing, and I want to become one of those brands where, people know that I am pricey, but they have enough invested interest in me that they've seen my work and they're like, yes, I'm ready to commit and I'm ready to get some art. So that's where I'm heading with my particular brand. I think what I've loved most about this particular weekend is realizing that there's still plenty of people out there with horses. I went through a bit of a mental battle a few weeks ago, thinking, because on social media I've niched down into horses, and I think it's tanked my reach a little bit, because I think when you make any change on social media, the algorithm can't quite understand what you're doing until you become really clear. And it made me worry that I was niching down too much. But social media is just one side of the business. And the amount of people that spoke to me and the amount of people that were interested in commissions, it made me realize that no, it's not too niche. There are people out there who are willing to pay for a commission and willing to pay for an original, because I sold an original. Yeah, it's made me really confident in knowing that I'm still just going to keep at this. I'm going to keep at what I enjoy, which is horses. And I'm going to keep pushing for what I really want, which, like I say again, I'm going to keep saying it to manifest it. I am still going to be the biggest horse artist in the UK. So there was a lot of, obviously, leading up to the event, hence why I didn't manage to do a podcast last week. There are so many little things that you need to consider on the lead up to the event. It's not just about what you're physically selling there. It's how your stand looks. So I was doing obviously a lot of prep with the panels that I mentioned earlier. I was doing lots of printing out plaques to explain what my art was about. I don't think I did those big enough because nobody actually read them, but I did them anyway, and they're saved on my computer for next time. Making sure you have promotional things. I gave up business cards, but I think what I'm going to do next time is make sure I've got a leaflet that is all about commissions, because that's what people really are interested in. Just like making sure you've got plenty of things to give people so that they remember you. I'm actually considering doing some goodie bags next time, and also maybe handing out Prosecco to get people to stay. There's things you have to really consider, like the whole event, like the whole experience for somebody. When they first see your tent or your stand or whatever you're exhibiting in, how do you draw them in? How do you keep them there? And how do you make sure that they go away and don't forget you? So you've got to consider that whole kind of journey. Also, aligning your website to what you're doing. So if you are going to be running a sale or something at the event, have you done those prices on your website too, so that there's no discrepancy between online and offline, unless you're doing show prices, because sometimes you can drop the price of something if you're not going to have to be paying for shipping to go out, or to incentivize people to actually pay for stuff at the show. That's a good idea. But making sure that things are aligned, because if people get your business card and they've seen you online, and they're like, they've seen you in person and they've got your business card, and then they go home and they go onto your website, and your website is a year old and it just doesn't match up to what they've seen in person, they're not going to really trust. A lot of the event prep is actually making sure that the online stuff is matching up to the offline. I would really encourage anybody to go to an event. It doesn't have to be big. It could be a small local one, but just getting yourself out there, because there's nothing better than a bit of human social interaction. And when people can put your face to the account online, or they can just see you in person, like, it builds that extra bond and it builds that extra connection. And I'm hoping that everybody that's met me over the weekend for the first time, and also the people that have seen me after 2 or 3 times, they now have more of a connection to me, and then that will help them become a client later on down the line. When you're an artist, it is all about people connecting to you through your art, and that's what I'm hoping that I've achieved this weekend. And of course, if you can do something out of the box like I did with this collaboration, I'm just so still buzzing about it. I think it's because, I don't know. I'm still so happy about it, and I really want to do more. And Blackfort, I'm going to give them a shout out as well. Blackfort, their clothing, I'm wearing it now, not deliberately. I'm wearing it now. Their clothing genuinely is so good, and I was already a customer of theirs. And that's what I was going to say is, these opportunities that have happened to me this weekend happened because I put myself out there and I asked for them. I approached Blackfort, and I think it's important, if you have got an idea about something that you want to, don't just sit around and wait for it to happen to you. Just ask the question. Molly is the founder of Blackfort. All she had to do was say, no, that's not up our street. And that would have been fine. Like, it would have just been, okay, it's just not happening. And there would have been no bad blood between us. But you have to put yourself out there and ask. And fortunately, she said yes. And the experience was actually better than I thought it was going to be. Originally, I was just going to bring my one piece that I was doing to their stand. And then I was thinking about it, and I was like, even though it would be good still me doing a live drawing of any horse, it made a lot more sense to me to do a live drawing of their horse. And then it made sense for us to do an exchange of services. I got clothes and she got a portrait. For both of us, there was no money exchanged. We just did it an exchange of services. But for both of us, it made such a difference because people may have walked past their stand and not gone in, but seen me and then they were drawn into their stand. People might have hung around their stand longer because I was there. And then on the flip side, I was also wearing their clothes throughout the entire weekend. So when I was on my stand, I was wearing all their clothes and heavily branded in their clothes. And people were asking me about my outfit. And then when I was on their stand, people were asking me for commission information. So everything we just helped each other. Like, it was definitely a situation where it was a win. Both of us were going to gain from it. So it was just a fantastic experience. And I would encourage anybody to just put yourself out there, ask questions. The only thing people can do is say no, and that's it. Sophie T is an artist that I follow and I really love her. And she didn't tell me, she told her followers, it felt like she told me, but she told her followers, said it several times, that the way that she got into becoming an artist was because she was traveling and she needed some money. And she needed some money, but she didn't have any money. So she asked somebody in a hotel, said, if I paint your wall, would you give me a hotel room for free? And they said yes. So she painted a wall, and I think that's when she decided she was going to be an artist. And then I don't know what the story was from then on, but she's always said that first person that said yes to her was essentially the making of her. That's how it all started. And so all you have to do is ask questions. I put the feelers out there, and the worst that can happen is somebody says no. But if somebody says yes, then a whole opportunity may open up for you. I'm going to leave the podcast there. I know this has been very much about me, but I hope, like, speaking about my experience of this weekend has inspired you to consider what you might do in the future in your business. And if you've got any more questions about this weekend or about events in general, please just drop me a message. My email address is georgie@georgieturnerartist.co.uk, and you can find me on Creative CEO Podcast Instagram account, but you can also message me on Georgie Turner Artist Instagram account. Thank you so much for listening, and I will speak to you next week. Bye.